now, finally, some good news. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. This is the first day from the Fundraising School, and today I'm taking a look at the new report from Giving USA. The report came out in June of 2025, capturing the data of charitable giving in 2024. And again, there is so much good news in this report to fuel our fundraising moving forward. First of all, let's review the data. The total number, the so-called headline number, $592.5 billion. It's a lot of money. It's also important because it is a record high when we look at current dollars. And that means the value of the dollar the year the dollar was donated. So that is a record high in the year the dollars were being donated. The increase is 6.3% in those current dollars. Now, some of you say, well, we use inflation-adjusted dollars when we plan our budgets and plan our fundraising, and that's also a wise way to go. Well, when we adjust for inflation, the increase in 2024 was 3.3%. Why is that notable? Because that is on par with the average over the 70 years of the Giving USA data. So it was a very healthy year in terms of current dollars and a very healthy year in terms of inflation-adjusted dollars when we look at this over time. Now, why do we see this increase? Two big categories. First of all, individuals. You already know that individuals drive charitable giving. As much as 85% of charitable giving comes from individuals. When you look at the individual category, when you look at money being sent into donor advised funds and coming out of donor advised funds, and we will look at bequests. So when we look at just the individuals, not the DAFs, not the bequests, individuals went up 8% in current dollars and even 5% after adjusting for inflation. That is a significant increase. Now, let me take a moment and step back on this. And this is just kind of my thought, my analysis on these data as we think about individuals. There's been so much information in the news, the media reports, about the heaviness of inflation over the last 4 or 5 years. And all of us have been sitting at our kitchen tables wondering, what do we do with our household budget, with our mortgage, our rent? What does this mean for our groceries? Did we have that big medical bill? What are the energy costs to be able to fill up the vehicle if we own one? And that still is present, and it is still very real. The heavy cloud of inflation is still present, even though the inflation numbers have been gradually coming down over time. Psychologically, inflation is still there in the minds of most of us. Think about that. Even with those heavy thoughts about inflation, individuals still increase their giving by 8% in terms of current dollars. The current dollar number, in my view, becomes even more remarkable when we think about people are wondering about their everyday household spending. And can I save a little bit? Can I have recreation or a little bit of a vacation? The current dollars are the dollars that I currently have. And yet giving still went up from individuals by 8% in current dollars and even by 5% when adjusting for inflation. That's how powerful this individual finding is in terms of giving from individuals in this year's report. Now, the other big driver, corporations. $44 billion from the corporate sector, the best ever from the corporate sector, even after adjusting for inflation. Corporate giving went up 9% in current dollars and 6% after adjusting for inflation. And keep in mind, with corporations, this is just the money directly from the corporation or from the corporate foundation. This is not money from, say, the marketing department. This is not the value of in-kind donations or pro bono services. Well, there have been some estimates in the past that you can kind of double the corporate number if we include the dollars that come out of marketing, the in-kind and the pro bono and so forth. So again, a strong year for corporations, the best ever, in fact, after adjusting for inflation. Now, these results from individuals and corporations really aren't overly surprising when we look at some of the other research and synthesize some of the other data. For example, those of you who come to the Fundraising School courses, we talk about this all the time. People give for a myriad of reasons based on their philanthropic values and their philanthropic motivations and how those are aligned with nonprofit organizations where there's alignment, where there's values alignment, and the public service missions of those nonprofits. That is why people donate. However, the when they donate and how much they donate is based on the so-called wealth effect of giving, these different economic factors. So the strongest wealth effect predictor is the stock market, especially the S&P 500. And in 2023, the S&P 500 was up more than 20%. In 2022, the S&P was up more than 20%. And when the S&P 500 is up, the following year, charitable giving can be expected to go up. It's one of the strongest correlations we have in our data from the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, where the fundraising school is housed. So with a strong stock market, we see strong charitable giving from individuals, strong charitable giving from corporations. Those really aren't a surprise. Also, earlier this year, the Giving Institute, we talked about this with Rick Dunham on this podcast, they showed their initial survey data for 2024 that charitable giving from all four generations, the boomers, Gen X, the millennials, and Gen Z, all went up in 2024. That was an early indication that now has been further confirmed by these Giving USA data. We've talked about charitable giving going up for millennials. That has to be one of the reasons why these Giving USA data are up. And of course, GDP growth. And it's interesting when you read the business press, and I hope you do, you need to skim it at least, if not take a deeper dive. You know, they say GDP is not great, but it's also not horrible. It's been kind of Goldilocks the last couple of years, holding okay. And that good, solid GDP growth, again, is another good wealth effect to help explain this charitable giving. Now, when you look at these data and the sources of charitable giving, something might jump out to you, and that's foundations. Okay, now, the great news is for the third consecutive year, foundation grants were over $100 billion. That's fantastic. And in current dollars, that's an increase of 2.4%. Wonderful. But after we adjust for inflation, foundation giving is down by 0.5%. And I have to admit, a curiosity, when I first saw that number, I was like, foundations have their money invested in the stock market. When the stock market goes up, foundations have more money to give away. And as we've talked about earlier, the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, heading into these 2024 data, the stock market was up more than 20%. And I hope you had a chance to hear last week's podcast with Dr. Una Osley and John Bergdahl, who helped us understand that this really isn't the decline that maybe the headline number seems to be, because foundation giving went up so much during the COVID pandemic that by comparison from one year to the next, you see this slight decline of 0.5% after adjusting for inflation, basically statistically breaking even when we account for inflation, and yet still up 2.4% in current dollars. Now, that's where the money is coming from. How about where the money is going? Let's look at the recipients. Some more great news. There are 9 subsectors in the Giving USA report. All 9 went up in current dollars for the second straight year. And when you look at the last 40 years, going back to 1984, that's just the 14th time that's happened. So it happens about once every 3 or 4 years. This has now happened 2 consecutive years where all 9 subsectors enjoyed an increase in charitable giving in current dollars. So what do we do with these data as we're planning for our fundraising, right? And it's so easy to say, well, that was last year. What about now? Well, let's talk about now. And let's talk about planning for the future. First of all, these data show there was significant momentum in charitable giving entering 2025, and shows that there still is significant opportunity for fundraising. The death of generosity has been greatly exaggerated, just not supported in these data. And it shows that we need to continue to be talking to individuals and corporations and foundations about current giving and, yes, planned giving. These data show that opportunity for charitable giving and successful fundraising is alive and well. It's another reason, too, these data show, to continue to look for ways to use AI, artificial intelligence, at the very least generative AI, if not predictive AI, because, again, when you use AI, you can save time on some of your work at the office to spend more time with these individuals, with these foundations, with these corporations to continue this momentum in charitable giving. I've already mentioned millennials. They have been increasing their charitable giving. They're now the second highest giving household amongst the 4 generations for which we have data. So continue to include millennials and the different ways that they give and approach charitable giving. This also is a tremendous reminder for stewardship, right? We still have a huge drop off in somebody who donates once and then doesn't donate again. Let's make sure we're maintaining relationships with our donors. Remember, stewardship is maintaining relationships with our donors in ways that don't always involve asking them for the next gift. It's that fundraising that happens in between the asks, as our good colleague Angela Altimore of BWF likes to say. And so make sure you're maintaining that stewardship to build the lifelong relationships. Also, let's make sure we're asking everybody. There's always this concern, only 50% of households donate. It's only the middle and upper income households that are donating. And certainly a lower income household does have less resource to give, but it doesn't mean we should not be asking everybody. Remember, that 50% statistic that often is in the news does not mean 100% of people were asked and only 50% said yes. No, it doesn't mean that. It's also not the same 50% every year. When you stretch that same report out over several years, the percentage of households that donate is 88%. So if only the wealthier folks are donating because they're the only people we're asking, shame on us as fundraisers. Let's make sure we're including everybody in our fundraising strategies. And then again, as we look ahead through the rest of 2025 and into 2026, some folks can feel a weight of uncertainty with political changes, with an economic roller coaster a little bit from here to there on different economic data from one month to the next, international issues, international trade issues, all of these different things. And people wonder, will there be a recession? And of course, the answer is yes. Because in a market economy, there's always going to be a recession. The question is when. That's what we don't know, right? And so again, a pleasant reminder to do scenario planning. Have one fundraising plan as if the momentum we see in the most recent Giving USA report, that momentum is going to continue. That's one scenario. Another scenario is to look at the last 10, 20, 40 years in this Giving USA report and see what happens during recessionary years. That's another scenario you can have. And then maybe kind of somewhere in between, kind of a break even, kind of a hold serve, shoot par, pick your metaphor of just keeping things in balance. And that then can help you stay flexible during some of these thoughts of uncertainty. So again, the Giving USA report out now for 2025, reporting on 2024 data. That's available on the website of the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at go.iu.edu/research. You'll see the report there and all of our school's wonderful research that can help inform your fundraising strategies with data-driven evidence. Now, when you look at that toolbar, go to the fundraising school. That's where you're going to find our public courses, more than 24 that lead to 5 different certificates. We are in person in 10 U.S. cities and online anywhere around the world. And online means live. We call those virtual. And we also have online that are recorded that are asynchronous. Whatever works best for you works for us. We have custom training where we can knit content together, tailored just for your nonprofit, your association, your geographic region, your country, whatever the case might be. We also can provide you information on our quarterly webinars. We have these weekly podcasts, and they are all archived on that website. And again, people use them for their own professional development. Some of them show the podcasts at staff meetings and board meetings. We hope this free resource can remain valuable for you. And of course, all of our knowledge gathered in our textbook, Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, the book now out in its 5th edition. All this information available online at go.iu.edu/TFRS. So grateful. This podcast has been rated one of the top 10 podcasts in the philanthropic sector in the United States by a couple of different services. And that would not be possible without our producers, Jennifer Boffman, CFRM, and our Emmy Award winner, Mike Anthony. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz, and now you are now more fully informed on this first day from the Fundraising School.